Sciurus carolinensis, more commonly called the eastern gray squirrel. They're very common critters, but have you ever stopped to think, why do they behave the way they do? Or rather, what affects their behavior? And why exactly are they so common in cities around the world?
Squirrels play important parts in many ecosystems. Through seed dispersal and seed selection, they can alter the woody composition of things like forests, but it doesn't explain why they're so prevalent in urban habitats. One reason for their prevalence is because many of them were directly introduced into American cities. In cities like Boston and Philadelphia, in the 1840s to about 1860s, many people directly introduced gray squirrels because they believed they would bring the city more of a rustic nature. But a more pressing reason for their prevalence is an increase in urbanization. In the past decade, cities have been growing at about a rate twice as fast as they have been historically. This has led to sort of an increase in animal-human interactions, which is the focus of this experiment. Living in urban landscapes brings with it its own unique stressors on wild animals. Previous studies have found that in the presence of more human activity, squirrels displayed more vigilant behavior. Vigilance being anything like surveillance, alert calling, anti-predation behavior. Another study found that when squirrels were a further distance from safety being things like a tree or a burrow, they also displayed higher proportions of anti-predation behavior. It's these two factors that we're interested in this experiment. We hypothesized that the proportion of a squirrel's behavior classified as vigilant would increase with both the number of humans present as well as their distance from safety. But how do we test that? We used both treatments as independent variables, those being the distance from safety as well as the number of humans present. The specific levels we used were whether or not there were 5 humans or less than 5 humans present, as well as 0 to 3 meters, and 3 to 15 meters from safety. Each student from Ecology was responsible for one location on Georgia Tech's campus that they would return to each week and record the measurement of a squirrel given what was there. For about 5 minutes, behaviors were categorized into 5 different categories, but the one that we're focused on, of course, is vigilance. Along with behavioral data, students were responsible for categorizing organisms in the area as well as geographic data. We then ran a two-way ANOVA test to calculate the significance of our 2 treatments, as well as their interaction between the 2. We then would follow up significant results with a post-hoc 2K HSD test. So what do we find? Well, the results of our two-way ANOVA saw that the only significant difference in vigilance proportion came from the distance from safety the squirrel was. The number of humans present, as well as the interaction between the 2 treatments, were not significant. The 2K HSD test showed that pairwise differences existed for the shortest distance and the longest distance from safety, that being 0 meters and 3 to 15 meters. When we plotted with the box and whisker plot, we found that the median vigilance proportion decreased as the distance from safety increased, with it being about 27% at 0 meters and 20% at 3 to 15 meters. So what do these findings mean? Well, for one, our hypothesis was not supported by our data. Not only did we not see a significant difference in the vigilance proportion based on the number of humans present, but the direction in which the behavior of the squirrels shifted was opposite to what we expected. This is quite contrary to our prior findings and other studies, but what could be the root of this? We suggest that the differences seen in the behavior of the squirrels is due to the nature of the population. For example, a study done on Denison University's campus found that squirrels were less vigilant in areas with lower human activity, as well as in places closer to safety, contradicting our results. Another study done in Quebec found that squirrels were more vigilant at distances further from safety, but they also found that differences in human exposure caused no difference in behavior. These wide variances in behavioral data can likely be caused by the urbanization level of the squirrel population. Specifically, what we mean is the level of habituation these squirrels show to the presence of humans. In 2019, a study very similar to ours suggested that squirrels in urban environments would show lower signs of vigilance in areas with less human activity. Instead, they found the opposite. They suggested that this was because that squirrels that lived in urban environments over time became habituated to the presence of humans. They realized that the habituation level of squirrels increased their relative tolerance to humans and therefore decreased their vigilance behavior. And we suggest that something very similar is happening to squirrels on Georgia Tech's campus. Our findings could be used in future studies. One such study is analyzing the proportion of foraging behavior to vigilance behavior. One study found that in urbanized squirrel populations that were thoroughly habituated, they typically displayed higher levels of foraging behavior compared to vigilance behavior. And an analyzation of Georgia Tech squirrel behavior could help support the fact that our suggestion that these squirrels are thoroughly urbanized is true. Another application is the valuability of green space. One study found that squirrel behavior on campus green space could be used to determine whether or not these green spaces were environmentally valuable, aka beneficial for the animals. Knowledge like this could be used in future applications to determine whether or not a project should be done or should be changed in a better way to better suit the animals. Bonus time! The 3 UN sustainability goals that our project focuses on is 1, life on land, because squirrels and humans both live on land and interact on land. Number 2, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, because the way that college campuses are designed and urban cities themselves can be changed, and that's infrastructure. Number 3, it's sustainable cities and commodities. Sustainability comes with the interaction between humans and animals, and our research could help find a better way to make them mold together.